Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bishop Larry Ward Live. We call it BLAW Live. We're so appreciative of you being with us. And to my left, and I'm sure as you're looking at your screen, to your right is Reverend Dr. Virginia Ward. And we have some fantastic guests with us tonight who she'll introduce momentarily. I just want to let you know we appreciate you for watching and making comments and how you're enjoying BLAW Live. And if you are first time with us, we want to let you know we thank you for joining us, and also subscribe. You can also let people know and have a watch party and just be in on the discussion. So we want to invite you to chat as well. So we're going to have a time for Q&A, and you can actually put your comments and your questions in the chat box. So we welcome you. And so tonight, Pastor Virginia, who's our guest?
All right. Well, we are blessed with a young couple who are going to share about marriage and love through the pandemic. As you are aware or may not be aware, we're in our family zone. We begin every Mother's Day and it runs through Father's Day. And so each week we'll be highlighting singles and marrieds and just talking to families about different things. So today we are blessed to have with us Jalem and Zoe Towler. Jalem is an executive assistant at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, and he's doing an amazing job, by the way. And he has a wealth of experience and has studied extensively and done some great work. And he's married to the lovely Zoe Towler, who is a program director for InterVarsity and also just officially started her third year as an MDiv student. And we're just really excited for them. They've been married approximately 4 years now, and we're going to hear from them about marriage and love during the lockdown. So feel free to, if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat and we'll make sure that they get asked. So welcome, Jalem and Zoe. Glad that you're here.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So it's been about a year, a little over a year now in this lockdown, and since the world has changed. So we'd like to know, how are you both doing? How has marriage worked out for you during this season?
You want to go first?
Sure. There's so many things that have happened during this pandemic. I think marriage-wise, I feel like the number one thing that I've learned is that I really do love Zoe very deeply, and that beyond just being like, my life partner, that we have a lot of fun together, and that we have learned to laugh a lot and play together in ways that we were not doing pre-pandemic, just because we weren't locked in a house all day.
Yeah. We joke that, or maybe I joke that the Lord knew not to do this our first year of marriage because one of us would not be here. But no, our fourth year, it's been very nice to be together. And I think, just like to echo what Jalem said, I think it's nice to, realize that you actually like the person who you live with. And I know that's not the case for everybody. So I feel very, very privileged to be able to say that I thoroughly enjoy spending time with Jalem. Yeah, so it's been good for us.
Good.
It's amazing. That's really good. When you think about when the pandemic first, hit us and things started to shut down, we had had to all stay home. What was the first, things that kind of come to your mind as a couple when you were told, all right, everything's shut down, nobody's going anywhere, big change? What did that sound like when it comes to the discussion between you and Jalem and Zoe? What did that sound between you two?
This is horrible, but the first thing that I thought was, dang, we're not going to Aruba this year. We've been trying to go to Aruba. I know that it does have to do with us because it was our anniversary trip that was supposed to be our first year, then got pushed back to our second year, then got pushed back to our third year, and then the pandemic hit. And we said, I guess the Lord does not want us to go to Aruba. That was my first thought. No, but
so you can say more.
Oh, I was gonna say, but on a serious note, I think I think I was like, we live in a small apartment. I was like, where are we gonna both do our work without being in one another's meetings at the same time? And
Gotcha.
our kitchen table turned into an office.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it's hard for me to remember my first thoughts, but I feel like it had something to do with school because
Mm.
we're
'cause
both
you were in
we were
school at
both
the
in
time.
school. So
Mm.
then
Oh, wow, yeah.
I'm a very like detail oriented person. So the first thing I thought about was, man, that internet's not gonna hold up. We got like 6 people in our house and all of us about to be on video calls all day. And I was just thinking similar to what Zoe said about like spacing and like how we would do school and stay sane. Because a big part of school that kind of makes it easy is you go study with people, you go to the library,
Right.
separation of kind of work and home that was, you know, kind of eliminated by the pandemic.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
Wow. So in that, you just really had to get used to the idea of you being home together all the time.
Right.
And then having to get used to each other's workspaces and figure out what you had to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
So with that, what would you say were some of the foundation stones that you built in years 1 through 3 that allowed that to be okay in year 4 or 3 going into 4?
Yeah. Well, so both Jalem and I were raised as only children.
Mm.
So hence why the first year was especially difficult.
Okay.
I think just in jest, before we got married, when we were doing like premarital counseling, you might remember Bishop, Jalem said, I'm not gonna share my snacks with her. And I was like, what? You're not gonna share your snacks with me when we get married? What do you mean?
Yeah, that was a
So-
confusing moment.
Yeah, I remember just being like, hold on, what? But I think I use him as an example, but really I think I was the one who was really rigid in not sharing and really rigid in the way that I wanted to do things and things like that. And I think in years 1 through 3, one thing that I had to get rid of was like things going your way. Like you live now with another human, and that means that they have decisions that are valid and will respond how they need to respond in that moment. You can't control them. You have to only control yourself. So if they say something to you that you don't like, you can control how you respond. You can't control what they're going to say. And so I think that was a big stone that I think I had to create with the Lord, literally from nothing, for year 1 through 3, to then be able to be a better communicator and responder to Jalem.
Good.
I would say communication, specifically in the realm of conflict resolution. I think that there was the way that I learned how to love and support Zoe when we were dating. There's a way that I learned to love and support when we were engaged. And then there's a way that I had to learn to love and support when we're married. And I think that required a shifting of gears like progressively that at first was very difficult, because what works well when you see somebody once a week might not work well when you see them every day.
Well,
And, you know, just like simple things of just like if I leave clothes on the floor, you know, that might go differently when she's coming over to visit versus, you know, when we're living with each other every day. And I think learning how to talk through conflicts, like in a way where we're not trying to rush through it, we're not trying to solve it immediately all the time, but really trying to like see each other. And like in our couples counseling, they actually had us do an exercise where we just stared at each other and did nothing else, just stared at each other for like 2 minutes. I loved it. It was also very hard. And I think that concept of learning to see each other, and like when you have a conflict, going deeper than like, this is my point, this is your point, but like, oh, this is bothering you like on a deep emotional level. Like, let's hone in on that. Let me like take a step back and not focus on being right or getting the upper hands or proving my point. But like, what does it mean to like see each other in the conflict and to work through that, however begrudgingly or however difficult it is. And I think that first year of marriage was a lot of like, how do we do that? But at the same time, not wanting to do that, because when you're kind of thrown in, it's just like, I didn't sign up for this, but you did sign up for this. You just, you know, you didn't read the fine print. But I think learning that really helped in this year of marriage during the pandemic, because it meant when conflict did arise, because in being in the house all the time, conflict was going to arise more often because we're just around each other more. But learning to work through that really helped. And it helped us separate, like, you know, the fun times versus like, these are the tough, challenging times we have to have tough conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think to that point, one thing that I think the pandemic taught us, either by us choosing to allow the pandemic to choose us or by necessity because we had to live together for 24 hours every moment, was to keep our records short. I don't know how that phrase goes, but to make sure that, like, if something happens, you are quick to bring it up.
Yep.
And to say, like, hey, you did this earlier and that didn't feel good when you said it like this, or whatever the case may be. I think it taught us to touch on those moments of conflict or hurt or pain much more quickly than I think we would have before the pandemic.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So it sounds like you both learned some things even about yourself personally that were definitely applied in the marriage context.
Yeah.
Well, I just have a question for you, and I'm going to invite folks to also chime in if they have any questions and to ask you. They can put in chat. So those of you listening, we want to just put that in the chat box, and we will have Jalen and Zoe answer those questions. To kind of get rolling, what's on my mind is that what would you tell people who are married, newly married? You know, maybe they just got married a year or 2 years. Now you've been married almost 4 years, and they're in the pandemic, but they're not going through very well. It's a lot of frustration. It's a lot of, you know, conflict. It's a lot of difficulty. What would you tell them that might help them to get through some difficult conversations?
Yeah. Can I say?
What you ask?
Oh, I don't know if you wanted to say something first. I think that the most simple one that I think I could speak for both of us on this is you need to take space for yourself. Like, it is so important that I think the lie that both like often churches tell us, but also I think society, is that your partner is going to be the everything for you. You know, they're going to be your best friend. They're going to be the only one you go to for all of your troubles. They're going to be like, you imagine this life where you do every single thing, every single moment together. And I think the issue in that is that then you also kind of lose yourself, and if you don't have the space to just be on your own, you can't tap into, like, why am I feeling that way? Why did I snap at you when you told me? Prime example, 15 minutes ago, I was doing my hair before we started, and Jalen was like, you gonna be on time? I'm like, I know what time it starts, you know? And I'm like, why did I snap at you? Like, that's rude. Like, why did I say it like that? I didn't have to respond to you like that. And so, you know, so I'm like, so we have to take the space for ourselves to say, like, why was I doing that? You know, why did I speak like that? Why did you ask me to do something? You know, and you can only do that alone and with Jesus. And so you have to take space alone, whether that be an hour walk a day, 5 minutes walk a day, whatever you can manage. You need to be alone for some periods of time.
Yeah, mine was on a similar note. My question was just like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Because so often I found that when I have conflicts with Zoe, when I have conflicts with anybody, a lot of times it's not about what the person did, but it's about things that it triggered in me. It's about memories. It's about past trauma. It's about issues that maybe I'm just trying to ignore that the person brought out of me, or it triggered me unintentionally. And asking that question of how are you taking care of yourself, in the sense of like, when you're, you know, checking into your physical body, because oftentimes when we have reactions, like, it can, you know, I'll feel hot inside, or I'll feel my adrenaline start to spike, and like checking in physically, checking in with myself emotionally. If it's been a long day, there were definitely periods during this past year where we had conflict because one of us was just burnt out, just working too much, having too much on our plates, and not having space for the other person. But aside from that, the other thing that I was thinking of was also leaning in on community. I think one of the most beautiful parts about being in a relationship with Zoe is that we've also been able to become better friends in our own community to the people that we hang out with. And I think our community supports us not just as individuals, but they're also supporting our marriage and what we're trying to build as a unit. And I think that you can't, I don't always expect to be able to get the answers or to solve things with Zoe one-on-one all the time. Sometimes I have to call up my friends, my close friends, and just talk about what's going on, just to vent about it, just to talk to somebody else. Because if Zoe was my only friend, I mean, that would be a problem.
You can't vent about me to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't work too well.
So I think leaning in on community and self-care are like two things that I would suggest. And also just therapy. I suggest therapy for everything. Self-therapy, couples therapy. Like, I think therapy can go a long way of getting somebody else in the room that can kind of talk you through things, see it from a perspective that other people aren't. Because some people don't have access to self-care techniques. Some people don't have access to a large community. But I think therapy is something that, people should definitely seek out if it's within their means.
Well, I think you both have raised a great issue of some of the fallacies, some of the lies that you're told, even being married, that spouse is going to be your end all and meet every expectation. And then it's easy to be let down if you think that that's the case and they don't. No, that's Jesus. No spouse can do that. So let's be clear. You all have made that very clear about that. And I think that that's really good. It sounds like lessons you've learned from yourself. So think about this. Here's a question for you that has come in. As you think about the stressful times that you faced in your marriage and during this pandemic, during this season, where has God been, or where have you found God in those spaces? Because you've talked about community, you've talked about each other, you've talked about therapy. Where have you found God in those spaces? Self-care, yes, but where else have you found God?
I'm thinking about this.
Oh, beginning of January.
Sure, I don't even remember. I trust you. I not off the top of my head.
Well, I think one thing that was really important that I think you always hear people say, but it's not until you put it into practice that you're like, this works.
Yeah.
So for the fast this January, when the church fasted and we joined in the fast, one thing that we added was to wake up at 6 a.m. and to pray together for an hour, or some days it was more. And because we are young people and our strength is weak, we would wake up at 6 and we pray for an hour, and then we take a nap and then wake up again for work. All that to say, you don't have to do all that, but having that time to worship and to pray together, I think was really, really important for us. We've been trying to get back to it, but 6 a.m. is early, so we're trying to find another
prayer call. Come on.
So we catch the manna.
There you go.
Manna came in the morning.
Yeah, so I think that was really good to have intentional time to pray together, rather than, just like little pockets, but some real intentional time.
Right.
God, I think really deeply in those times.
Good. And are there other things that you do together to relieve stress, or even individually? What are some of the things that you do that are known to each other to relieve stress? Whether it's marital stress, relational stress, work stress, because we all have it, and it was multiplied during this season. What were some of the things that you did? What were some of the secrets of your stress release?
So I love movies. Jalen doesn't like to watch movies as much as I'd like to watch movies. And so as a what do you call that? When two people come into the middle?
Compromise,
thank you. As a compromise, we decided to do a date night every Friday night for this past semester, so January till now. And we would watch it, we would order dinner, some weeks it'd be $5 dinner, some weeks it'd be more.
$5 dinner.
How much is a Domino's pizza? $10?
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, whatever.
Depends what you got on top of it.
Right.
Right. That piece. So whatever we could afford, we would order food, and then we would watch a movie. And one week I would pick the movie, and the next week Jalen would pick the movie. And I think that was really a good moment for us to be like, the week is done. We are just spending time with each other. What else would you say?
Sorry, to also answer your previous question about where to find God, I was also thinking about worship soaks. I think worship soaks are something, a place where I've definitely found God, of like
Nice.
silencing myself, silencing my thoughts, putting on worship music, but also sometimes just sitting in silence and kind of just letting God's presence kind of wash over me. I think that's been a powerful way to find God, that I definitely was not, that's not the way I was finding God before marriage.
Nice. I like silent soaks, worship soaks, and then the worship soaks can consist of not just worship music and hearing that, but also just sitting silently, which we don't think about and we're not intentional about. That's good. That's good.
And as for the stress relief, I have found working out to be an incredible stress relief over the past like half year. I don't want to give a plug, but I'm gonna give a plug. Peloton has changed my life.
Okay.
Because I don't know who knows Peloton. They have a digital app. We don't have a bike. That's not. But they have a digital app.
I was getting ready to say.
We don't have money like that. We don't have a bike.
But if the Lord provides, I will humbly accept. But they have a digital app, and they have a whole bunch of instructors with tons of different workout, from strength to cardio to stretching to meditation and to yoga.
Okay.
And all their stuff is they have Black instructors, because that was very important to me. And I for whatever reason, people find things that click for them for working out. This just clicked for me. And so working out has been a way that I am present with my body. And it also serves as a transition from the workspace to the rest of my evening. Because I'm like, I've had a long work day, been on Zoom calls for 7-8 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then, I go work out. I have this, moment of being present with my body. And afterwards take a shower and I feel like relieved. Like I feel like, oh, like I can have a good rest of my night. So I think that's been a strong source for me.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Good.
It's really good. So when you get that bike, you just tell everybody what your Cash App is.
Yeah, we'll accept donations.
There you go. There you go.
Find me on Venmo with my name. Just kidding. I'm joking. Please don't. I'm joking.
They have another question that came in. It says one of the things I had to work on, being together all the time, means that I have been more intentional about spending time together with my spouse. But they're saying it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And sometimes, depending, it has challenges depending what times you work, what time you get home, what your schedule is. Do you have children? So how do you keep that intentional Friday? Especially if you have some other competing time demands and schedules.
We're both big calendar people. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. So we literally block out in our calendars the time we're going to spend with each other. And that is a way that we protect it. And at first, it still was a challenge. I don't think we got it on the first go. But then we just had to have very real conversations of just like, what is our priority? Is our priority spending time together? Is our priority doing something else? And I think in having those real conversations, it forced us to make, decisions about how we're going to spend our time. And we even have moments where it'll be a Friday, and we live in community housing. So we have housemates that we love to spend time with, but we have to like set boundaries of just like, okay, our housemates might be hanging out. We might be like, oh, we want to hang out with them. But then we just look at each other, we're like, nope, we said we're gonna guard this time. Let's guard this time. Because for us, when we cancel like once, it might not make a difference, but then the semester is over because we're like in school year timeline. And then we're like, oh, wow, we didn't spend any time with each other. That hurts. Why do we feel disconnected? Oh, we didn't have fun with each other. Why do we not want to, so I think it all connects, but I think calendar time, it's a form of time management, I guess, of just like protecting the time, protecting the space.
And it's hard because we not only had Fridays, but we also had Wednesdays. So Jalen likes to play games, board games. I do too, but and so Wednesdays we were supposed to play board games or card games, whatever, and Fridays we would watch movies. So that's 2 nights a week that are there's only 5 nights, you know. And as a graduate student, there were some nights where I was like, okay, Zoe, so are you gonna choose to stop studying for your exam tomorrow and spend time with Jalen, or are you gonna cancel? And some weeks I canceled.
There's always grace.
But I think there were many times where it was just like, listen, priorities do matter, and you just make those decisions, and they're hard. And I don't think we ever did this before the pandemic, actually, which is interesting.
No, and before, I feel like life was also different because the time we came home was like the only time. Time was different. It was a different.
Yeah.
Right. So here's going to be one of our last questions, and it may just as we're starting to wind down our time together, and we could just keep talking. So this is great. Having gone through this pandemic, how would you say that your marriage has been strengthened over the last year and over the last year and few months? What would you say, 1 or 2 pointers, each of you, as to how your marriage has been strengthened?
I think one of the first things that comes to mind for me is because of the ways that we've done our best to prioritize God in our relationship, and I don't mean that in a cliche sense, but prioritize God in the sense that, like, for me, that means seeing Zoe as an image bearer, but also seeing her for like her complete worth. And I think God is the only one that could see Zoe for her complete worth, but me trying to work towards that completeness. And I think that in a sense is strengthened because I feel like this was like a small thing that happened to us on a text thread 2 weeks ago. Zoe had texted something and I read the text, but I read underneath it. And she was like offering, we had a housemate whose birthday was coming up, and Zoe was like, oh, we should like make you dinner. And I immediately thought, Zoe, do not exert yourself when you're in final season and try to make this person dinner.
Right.
And I talked to Zoe about it like the next day, and she was like, I didn't even say that. How did you even know? So it's like, it was almost like this subtext that it wasn't even visible to my eye, but that I just kind of read, that I think we've been strengthened. And I think the second pointer would be just stronger in terms of being able to, going back to the conflicts thing, of just being able to handle conflicts and talk through it, and not go to a place of frustration and irritation so much that I can't talk, but to actually just be able to talk through it and to work through it and to let it go, right? So, because there's like facing conflict, resolving it, and then letting it go. Because sometimes we let things fester even when we quote unquote resolved it. And I think those 2 things have definitely been ways that been strengthened.
Yeah. I think for me, one big thing that I think I'm coming to realize is I'm very good at getting out of trouble. Not that I get into trouble in my marriage, but just in general, like I'm really good at getting out of trouble. So like if I don't do something, I'm really quick to figure out a way to figure out how to be like, no, it's because so-and-so didn't send me a follow-up email, such and such, rather than being like, no, I forgot, and that's on me. And I think one thing that has strengthened our marriage is I think me being able to own when I have places of growth. So like Jalen is very gracious in this phone call, but a lot of the reasons when we don't spend time together in seasons, it's because my schedule is too busy. Right? And I
disagree.
Okay. Kindness.
Continue.
But I think that's probably objective, is because my schedule is too busy. And I think Jalen is very, very slow to say that. And I think God has been very like, hey, sis, your schedule, that's the reason this isn't working, you know? And I'm like, okay, Lord, yeah, what do I need to do about this? So that's the first thing. And then I think the second thing, I don't remember what the second thing was.
Oh, it's okay. 1 is enough.
1 is enough.
One is enough.
Yeah.
So I want to ask him that question.
Oh, Mike. Okay. Well, here's my answer to that question. Going through the pandemic has strengthened our relationship, and this is my vantage point, is that I think it has strengthened our resolve to really work together
Mhm.
like never before.
Mhm.
I think we're committed to working together,
Mhm.
and we've worked together on many different fronts, from the church, consulting.
Mhm.
But we just came out of building the house, and I say building the house because we were just kind of trying to do a little renovation that turned into a whole project. Did that together.
Mhm.
And then coming through the pandemic, where we just kept working at home, and also we kept working at the church.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think it just really gave us a resolve to really commit ourselves to continue working together, because it really, really helped us when it comes to forming our values,
Mhm. Mhm.
that we're stronger together than we are apart.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would concur. I was along the same lines of work. We both love to work, and we will work and work and work.
I had no idea.
So we're both, because we just love it. We love to work. And our sons are the same way. They are just driven, and we see them now as adults, and we're like, oh, and they tell us that, well, we watched you guys, and they do the same thing and work, 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 work. But with that working, I think how it strengthened us is we see the importance of what we need to work on for our next season, what we need to work on now. The pandemic has shown us this is what we need to be working on
Mhm.
for our next season, and working together in that regard. So yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today.
Oh.
That's great.
Sorry that we have to go, because this was just kind of getting to dive into some things that we wanted to talk about, but we'll do that at some other point.
Mhm.
But thank you, Jalen and Zoe, for taking the time to be with us here on BLAW Live.
Mhm.
And for those of you who are watching, we appreciate that you were listening, that you asked questions. We appreciate your time, and also share with somebody. Let them know that this conversation was happening with a very powerful couple. We know that God is using them
Yes.
mightily, and both together and also in their individual respects. So we just thank you so much. And so with that, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you.
Mhm.
May the Lord be gracious unto you and give you his peace. God bless. Thank you so much.